To understand the lie about our origin, you don't need to look at the sky. You need to look in the mirror. And then you need to look at nature outside. If you observe any wild animal, from the polar bear in the Arctic to the camel in the desert, you will see what biologists call perfect adaptation. The bear has the fur, the layer of fat, and the exact claws for its environment. It doesn't need clothes. The camel has double eyelids for the sand and thermal hooves. Nature is ruthless. It only allows those who fit perfectly into the ecosystem to survive. Now look at us, the human being. According to Charles Darwin, we are the pinnacle of evolution, the result of millions of years of genetic improvement. But, biologically speaking, we are a complete disaster. We are the only species on planet Earth that is not adapted to the environment in which it lives. Researcher Lloyd, in his seminal work on genetic intervention, raised a question that science ignores. If we evolved here, why does Earth try to kill us all the time? Let's look at the physical facts. If I leave you naked in the forest tonight, you will likely die of hypothermia or be devoured by insects. Why? Because we lost our protective fur. Evolution says we lost our hair to sweat and run better, but that makes no sense. Primates, our supposed cousins, kept their fur because it protects them from the cold at night and, ironically, protects them from the heat of the sun during the day. And speaking of the sun, we are the only species that needs to hide from it. A lizard stays in the sun all day and gains energy. A chimpanzee stays exposed and doesn't burn. Us? We stay exposed for 2 hours and our skin burns, blisters, and in the long run, we develop skin cancer. What kind of natural evolution creates an animal allergic to the main source of energy in its own solar system? But the most humiliating difference lies in strength. An adult male chimpanzee, half the size of a human man, is about 5 to 10 times stronger than us. If you get into a physical fight with a primate, it can rip your arm out of its socket without effort. Lloyd explained that primate muscle density is completely different from ours. Their muscle is dense, fibrous, made for raw power. Ours is flabby and weak by comparison. If we descended directly from them through natural selection, where the fittest survive, why would nature throw away 80% of our physical strength? In a wild environment, losing strength is a death sentence. Unless that strength was removed on purpose. We are slow. We have no natural claws. Our teeth are useless for tearing raw meat or for defense. Our senses, hearing and smell, are ridiculous compared to those of a dog or wolf. We are biologically easy prey. The fact that we are at the top of the food chain is not natural. It is technological. We only survive because we use crutches, clothes, weapons, fire, houses. Take away the technology, and the human being is the most pathetic creature in the forest. This raises the fundamental suspicion of the ancient astronaut theory. We did not adapt to this planet because we were not made for this planet, or at least we were not made by this planet. If our skin and muscles already tell a story of maladaptation, our bones scream the truth. Let's talk about the greatest plague of adult human life, back pain. Ask any orthopedist and they will say the same thing. The human spine is an engineering error. We are the only species that suffers massively from herniated discs, scoliosis, and chronic lower back pain just by existing. Why does this happen? The official explanation is that we recently started walking on 2 legs and our body is still adapting. But evolution doesn't work that way. It takes millions of years perfecting a change. If we had evolved gradually from the hunched position of apes to the upright position, our bones would have thickened and our vertebrae would have realigned step by step. There would be no pain. What we see in the human skeleton is the opposite. It looks like someone took a quadruped and forced its spine to be vertical overnight, without giving the structure time to strengthen. Our S-shaped spine is a jury-rigged solution to handle gravity, and it is a solution that constantly fails. Lloyd argued that this is proof of rapid genetic modification. We were straightened out to serve, to have our hands free to work in the mines and carry tools, but the engineer didn't care about the comfort of the model, and the structural defect becomes even more deadly when we look at reproduction. Human childbirth is an aberration in nature. In practically every mammal species, birth is a natural, quick process that the female can handle alone. A gazelle gives birth and runs off in minutes. A chimpanzee gives birth in the forest, cleans the infant, and moves on. The human woman? Childbirth is the most traumatic, painful, and dangerous event of our biology. Before modern medicine, the leading cause of death for young women was trying to give birth. Why? Because there is a fatal design flaw. The baby's head is too big to pass through the mother's pelvis. Natural evolution would never allow this. Rule number 1 of biology is the survival of the species. Selecting a trait that kills the mother and child at birth is evolutionary suicide. Nature would have widened women's hips or shrunk babies' brains. But that didn't happen. Why? Because the growth of our brain was not natural. It was artificially inflated. Intelligence was inserted into the genetic code, exploding the size of the skull. But the bone structure of the body didn't have time to catch up. We are a quantum computer stuffed inside the chassis of a VW Beetle. This tragic mismatch between our brain size and our body's capacity is, for ancient astronaut theorists, definitive proof that we are not the fruit of slow and wise selection. We are the fruit of a laboratory experiment that prioritized intelligence over physical survival. Many skeptics ask, if we were modified in a lab, where is the scar from the surgery? Where is the mark of the cut? The answer is frightening. The scar exists, and it is inside every cell of your body, right now. It has a name, Chromosome 2. Here we need a quick biology lesson that school probably oversimplified for you. If evolution works like a family tree, we should be nearly identical to our closest relatives. And in fact, great apes, chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans share a fundamental characteristic. They all have 48 chromosomes, 24 pairs. Following logic, humans should also have 48. But we don't. We have 46 chromosomes, 23 pairs. How is this possible? If we evolved directly from a common ancestor with the chimpanzee, how did we lose 2 entire chromosomes in the process? In nature, the radical loss of genetic material almost always results in fetal death or severe defects. You don't lose chromosomes and magically get smarter. Conventional science has an explanation for this. A fusion occurred. They say that at some point in prehistory, 2 smaller primate chromosomes stuck together to form our chromosome 2, and technically this is true. If we look under a microscope, we see that our chromosome 2 is, in fact, a collage of chimpanzee chromosomes 2A and 2B. But this is where Lloyd and alternative geneticists point out the signature of engineering. Chromosomes have structures at the tips called telomeres, which work like the plastic tips of a shoelace to keep it from fraying, and a center called a centromere. In our chromosome 2, we find telomeres in the middle of the chromosome, and we find 2 centromeres where there should only be 1. Lloyd Pye's analogy is perfect. Imagine you have 2 shoelaces. To turn them into one, nature would have to cut off the plastic tips and fuse the fabrics perfectly. But what we see in our DNA is as if someone took the 2 shoelaces, with the plastic tips still there, and wrapped crude duct tape around the middle. The statistical probability of this happening naturally, randomly, creating a viable, fertile, and suddenly more intelligent species, is astronomically low. Generally, when chromosomes fuse or break naturally, the result is genetic diseases like Down syndrome, trisomy 21, or Turner syndrome. The result is disability, not superpower. But in the human case, this accidental fusion created the most complex brain in the known universe. For ancient astronaut theorists, this was not an accident. This was a cut and paste procedure. Chromosome 2 is proof that someone entered the hominid source code, took raw genetic material, and made a deliberate fusion to increase processing capacity, sealing the ends to stabilize the new species. We are the only species on the planet with this number of chromosomes and this specific fusion. The scar is there for anyone to see. We were edited. If chromosome 2 is the scar of the surgery, our blood is the proof of rejection. There is a medical mystery that has intrigued hematologists for decades and may be the key to understanding our hybridization, the Rh-negative factor. In nature, the rule is clear. A mother never rejects her own offspring. A female's immune system is programmed to protect the young. But in the human species, something bizarre happens. If a woman with Rh-negative blood gets pregnant by a man with Rh-positive blood, her body can identify the fetus as an invader, as a virus. The mother's immune system creates antibodies to attack and kill her own baby. This is called hemolytic disease. Why in all of nature are we the only species where the mother's body tries to expel her own child? For researchers of the ancient astronaut theory, this is a classic symptom of hybridization. When we cross a horse with a donkey to create a mule, we see genetic incompatibilities. Rh-negative might be evidence that two different species were forcibly mixed. The terrestrial hominid, Rh-positive, compatible with rhesus monkeys, and something that was not from here, the negative factor. The human body is still fighting against this alien mixture. And this mixture didn't happen gradually, it happened suddenly. This leads us to the famous missing link. Have you noticed that every 2 years archaeology announces they might have found the missing ancestor? They are desperate, because the fossil record has a giant hole. We know that Homo erectus walked the earth for more than 1.5 million years. He used chipped stone tools, and for more than 1 million years he changed almost nothing. His evolution was stagnant. And then, about 200,000 years ago, a blink of an eye in geological time, Homo erectus disappears or is marginalized, and Homo sapiens appears. We appeared out of nowhere, and we appeared ready. Our skull was 50% larger. Our larynx had descended to allow complex speech, something requiring a complete re-engineering of the throat. Our skin became thin. Darwin said natura non facit saltum, nature does not make jumps. But the emergence of man was an Olympic jump. There is no gradual transitional fossil showing the brain growing slowly. The brain exploded in size. Francis Crick, the Nobel laureate who discovered the structure of DNA, wrote in his book Life Itself that the complexity of human DNA is too high to have evolved on Earth in the available time. He suggested directed panspermia, the idea that our genetic code was brought from outside. If the discoverer of DNA doubted natural evolution, why do we accept it blindly? The missing link will never be found buried in the dirt because the missing link was not a monkey. The missing link was the genetic engineering team that came down here, entered the laboratory the Sumerians called Bit Shimti, and transformed the animal Homo erectus into the worker Homo sapiens. Faced with all this evidence, the fragility of the body that can't handle the sun, the spine that breaks under gravity, the artificial fusion of chromosome 2, and the blood that rejects its own child, the conclusion is inevitable. You are not a happy accident of nature. You are not a monkey that got lucky. You are technically a genetically modified organism, GMO. But there is one last piece of this puzzle that defines our future. Geneticists call it junk DNA. When we mapped the human genome, we discovered something disturbing. About 97% of our DNA does not code for proteins. Official science for a long time called this evolutionary junk, remnants of viruses and old mutations that serve no purpose. But think with me, nature is economical. It does not waste energy. Why would evolution keep billions of letters of copied code in every cell of your body if they were useless? That would be like carrying an entire encyclopedia on your back just to use one page. Lloyd and modern theorists suggest a different answer. This DNA is not junk, it is deactivated code. Imagine computer software. The programmer can write lines of code that are there but are commented out or locked for the end user. The functions are installed, but you don't have the admin password to access them. Why would the Anunnaki do this? Because, as Zecharia Sitchin translated, they wanted workers, not rivals. They needed beings intelligent enough to use tools, understand orders, and mine gold, but not intelligent enough to challenge the masters. They didn't want to give us their longevity, rapid cellular regeneration, or advanced psychic capabilities. So they flipped the breakers off. We are supercomputers running in safe mode. The story of the fall of man in the Garden of Eden was not a moral sin. It was a biological event. The tree of knowledge was the moment we started hacking the system, the moment consciousness began trying to access the blocked parts of the code. The good news is that modern epigenetics is discovering that DNA is not fixed. It reacts to consciousness, environment, and frequency. What used to be called junk is starting to show regulatory functions. Accepting that we were created in a lab does not diminish us. On the contrary, it liberates us. It means our physical limitations are not the end of the line. It means that inside you, right now, there is a dormant stellar potential waiting to be activated. They made us servants, but they gave us, perhaps accidentally, perhaps through the intervention of Enki, the key to becoming masters. Science proves we are not from here. History proves we were edited. The final question is not who created us, but what are you going to do now that you know control is coming back into your hands? The awakening is not religious. The awakening is genetic. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel to support us, and become a member to get exclusive access to audio versions of our material. It helps us a lot. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss any content. Until next time.